This one I preached 8 years ago, Generation Rising. You remember that one, don't you? I really didn't have a choice. I had to find something. I'm like, I can't think of anything. And I started looking back. I thought, it's probably the best message for this time anyway. It's not a very positive. I don't have positive messages anymore. Does anybody see anything positive to preach about? Let me know. Pretty everything else is negative right now. But anyway, Psalm chapter 71. Psalm chapter 71, look at verse 15 to verse 18. Told you the title is Generation Rising. Psalm 71, verse 15. My mouth shall show forth thy righteousness and thy salvation all the day, for I know not the numbers thereof. I will go in the strength of the Lord God. I will make mention of thy righteousness, even of thine only. O God, thou hast taught me from my youth, and hitherto have I declared thy wondrous works. Now also, when I am old and gray-headed, O God, forsake me not until I have showed thy strength unto this generation and the power to everyone that is to come. And pretty much what's being said there, I don't know if that's a Psalm of David. Does it say it is a Psalm of David? I'm not looking at it exactly. No. Whoever the psalmist was that wrote that realized how important it is for you to reach your generation, the generation that's right in front of you. And when you don't, man, you get a mess. So let's have a word of prayer. Father, pray that you bless the message now, Lord, and thank you for our moms here. Thank you for those that take care of us. I know I thank you for my own mother. I wasn't raised in a Christian home. They weren't saved. In fact, she didn't get saved till about the year before she died, and I'm just thankful she was saved, but Lord, she was still a good mother. And I wish I'd been in a Christian home. That would have been wonderful. I pray that you'd help our Christian mothers to raise Christian children that'll grow up and be saved early, and then grow up to love God, love His book, love His church, love souls, have a desire to please God more than please themselves. Lord, if we can do that, we probably could have saved this generation, but we didn't. And now we have a generation that's arose that knows not the Lord. And Lord, I really believe that things are just going to get progressively worse and worse. That's what the Bible says. And Father, we do believe the Bible. But I pray, God, just help us be a warning, and also you don't have to be among that number. You can do it the way God wants it done and stand out. That's okay. It's good to stand out. So I pray, Heavenly Father, just bless the message now. Bless those that are here. And God, we've got much of the church away and sick. Just pray that you'd watch over them. Heal them up, Lord, and get them back safe. And we'll thank you for that. And we ask these things for Jesus' sake. Amen. Somebody was to tell the next generation that it was God that established this great nation. It wasn't liberals, atheists, or socialists. It wasn't communist. It wasn't fascist. It was God that helped establish this nation, just like it's God that established the nation of Israel. And there needed to be a generation that told them that. A lot of times we Americans, we take credit for what God did. Any liberty that we have, anything that we possess, yes, we had to have a certain view of God, but it's God that granted it. It's God that made it happen. It's God that gave us the victory in 2 world wars. I don't know if you know it or not, but war is not based on how powerful one nation is against another. War is based on the weather. And if anybody disagrees with that, go back and look. War is based on weather, and the weather comes from God. And if you want, when Germany attacked toward the east, toward Russia, man, they were practically in Moscow. They were getting close. They were traveling hundreds of miles in their incursion into the Soviet Union. And one winter, a winter they hadn't had, and I don't think it might have been one of them 500-year winters. They talk about, you don't have one of these but once every 500 years, but we seem to have them like once every 10 years or something like that. They had a winter that stopped the German army cold. I mean, it wasn't the forces that held them back. It was winter. It was the weather that stopped the German army. So God decides wars and decides all kinds of things, and we just say that God's been a great blessing to this nation, without a doubt, without a doubt. He's abundantly blessed this nation above all others. Why? Because we believed in him. Why? Because we acknowledged him. Why? Because we identified as a Christian nation. Even though not everybody's saved, understand that. But just identifying, look, this book we hold up. We elevate this book all over our country. Now all of a sudden, we need to throw that thing away and shut down the churches or rename them, Muslim church or whatever. God's become nothing more than a curse word in this country. That's the problem. The thing about the generation rising is the most important work done on the planet is done in the home. You can't convince Americans of that, but now we're starting to see the fruit of it. We put everybody to work, left nobody at home to tend the kids, and paid some, half-wit money to take care of your kid all day, and not teach them anything, by the way, because they're not allowed to. Not to teach them morality, not to teach them the Bible, not to teach them to memorize verses. You didn't teach them anything. And then we wonder what we got. I can tell you why we got that. The Bible talks about a generation arising. So when Christian moms and dads don't do their job, a generation arises that does not know the Lord. There's time and time again you find, and why is that? Time and time again, preacher after preacher, you can find where they failed their family. They raised a church, but they didn't raise a family. Their kids are heathen. It's unbelievable. And a lot of guys in the ministry fail their families, don't raise their children right. You find the same thing in the Old Testament when you talk about Eli. I mean, Eli was a man that loved God. You can't deny that. But man, I mean, because he didn't restrain those kids of his, because he didn't put the beat down on them a few times and put them in their place and command them like he was supposed to, God took it out on him. He said, sometimes, don't you want to take it out on somebody? When they unleash their kids on you? When they've let animals loose in the grocery store? You feel like unleashing something on them. Well, God did on Eli. He said, man, you don't understand what you've done. And then Samuel turned around. I mean, Samuel's watched this whole thing. And it said his children weren't children of Belial, but they weren't good kids either. So you can be as godly as you want to be. That doesn't mean you're going to raise good kids. You raise good kids because you put the time and effort into it, and they'll see a testimony or at least something that you're genuine. Because it's the one thing that kids always seem to think, that their parents are phonies and fakes until they grow up and become the phony and fake parent. Because they realize it ain't as easy as it looks. And being perfect, we just don't do that good at it. But a generation arises that does not know the Lord. Judges chapter 2, verse 10, and for time's sake, I'll just go ahead and read these. And y'all can look them up later if you want. Judges 2:10 says, and also all the generation were gathered unto their fathers, and there arose another generation after them, which knew not the Lord, nor yet the works which he had done for Israel. You see what he did? They didn't know? They knew not the Lord. Why? They didn't know the works. There wasn't somebody telling them, man, you know why we live in this rich country with these riches around us, and why we eat better than most everybody? It's because of God. And we haven't told them that. And these poor, ignorant fools coming out of these colleges think they're going to have more than their parents. They're not going to have more than their parents. They're going to have a lot less than their parents because they don't have the God of their parents. You wait and see. And then they're always blaming everything on everybody, grabbing onto a not a worthy cause, but a worthless cause. I never seen people invest themselves in such worthless causes all over this planet. If it's not a scriptural cause, don't waste your breath on it. It's not worth fighting. But that's where they are. They were not told about the mighty works which God did. They were historically ignorant. Historically ignorant. One of the things that the military People fighting in wars will tell you there's miracles all the time. Miracles all the time. Oh, we got sick because this happened, or because they just showed up in time, or this weather hit and it delayed this action. He's been doing things in time, in place on this planet, blessing people and helping people. And the thing you need to do is tell your kids. Tell your kids. This is what God has done. This is what God has been doing for us. All they learned about was failed governments, failed ideologies, and failed politicians, and failed parents. That's what our youth know. I mean, they can look out there and see the hypocrisy. Anybody can. I mean, we're all hypocrites in some fashion or form, some way. But God's not. So what you do is you always point your children to God and say, you know, yeah, I'm a hypocrite, but God's not. Won't you keep your eyes on Him? You know, eventually that's what happens. Children get their eyes off their parents. They should. But they should always get it on God. Well, you know, when you lead somebody to Christ, you know that person looks up to you. They just think that you're perfect. And the first thing I tell them is, now, it's all right to follow me a ways, but you need to keep your eyes on the Lord. Set your eyes on Him. He's the one you want to keep looking at. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. Because you get to looking at people, you get disappointed. They fail you. They absolutely just flat out fail you. And they may not even mean to. But Jesus Christ will never fail you. God will never fail you. You keep your eye on Him, man, I'm telling you. You'll do better things than you thought you could do. But they learned about all these things that failed instead of how God delivered us from fascist Germany, imperialist Japan, and communist Russia. Did anybody forget those? Of course, oh, that's right. Now that's what we're trying to be. Either fascist or communist or socialist or something. Anything but being what we are. Communism, socialism is back. And the funny thing is, they act like it's brand new. These kids do. It's not brand new. It's old and worn out. And it doesn't work. It's never worked in anywhere. Because it does leave out the God of the Bible. So there's a generation that arises because we don't do our jobs right, that does not know the Lord. And then there's a generation that rises, the same generation that curses their father and doth not bless their mother. And I'm afraid we've come to that too. Proverbs chapter 30 verse 11 says, there is a generation that curseth their father and doth not bless their mother. Timothy bears this out. 1 Timothy 1:9, it says, knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, for manslayers. You know, that was kind of unheard of, but then all of a sudden it started happening where children were murdering their parents, killing their parents. I was trying to think of the name now, it escapes me, but the one that was the most famous were the two brothers killed their mom and dad. It's right there, but I can't think of it. Anyway, that kind of set things off, but it happens all the time. I've seen where the grandson kills the grandma, or kills the grandpa. In other words, these little blessings that are running around turn into curses. I don't know if you know or not, but Hitler used to be a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old. So did Stalin, Pol Pot, Mao Zedong, Idi Amin, and any other despot that got raised by a mom. They were all little babies and cute and wonderful, and everybody liked to hold them and play with them, but they had a mom and a dad that failed them. Now, I don't want to say you can bat 1,000. I mean, it all depends. You know, if you only have one kid, you got to bat 1,000. Because you only got one. But if you got 5 and 6 and 10, you can average them out, you know. My average is good. You may not hit a home run on all of them. You know, they still have free will. You can raise them right, raise them to love the Lord, raise them to love the Bible, and they can decide to go a different direction. There's no way of stopping everything like that. But here's the thing. Usually when you put that kind of backstop up against them, they go out a ways. Remember that prodigal. I don't think that father in any way raised that prodigal necessarily wrong. That prodigal just thought, I think I want to go out there and experience life. I mean, don't you need to experience it first? No. You don't need to experience this world at all. Save yourself the trouble. But he thought he'd go out there and do that. But you know what happened? Because he had that backstop, what happened? He came to himself. And he thought, man, I have really messed up. I could starve to death out here, and nobody cares for me. He got to thinking about his daddy, and he said, my father cares for me. I think I'll go back. So, yeah, it may not stop them from doing a little wandering. It may not stop them from backsliding on God if they're saved. And usually when you raise them right, they get saved early. They might come back. They might come back. When Christian mom and dad don't do their job, a generation arises that's pure in their own eyes. He said over there, in Proverbs 30, verse 12, says, there's a generation that are pure in their own eyes and yet is not washed from their filthiness. We have a whole generation of children, teenagers and things that think they're clean, they're filthy. And you can't convince them of it. They think somehow they've got a righteous call or a righteous cause. We have a generation that's lost and ignorant of its own history. Social justice is their cause, ignoring common decency while promoting wickedness. That's it. I mean, you can't get, you're looking at them saying, these social justice issues, they're not Bible issues at all. You're not told to be a champion of those things at all. Nobody's told you to take care of race relations. You're told to win them. And you certainly, you can't read through the Bible not even once, or even a partial reading, and not realize that you should not be against that Jew. Unless you're, nuts. What do? We got a country that's turned on them. What? We've been raising the children to turn on them. Oh, you didn't know they were doing that? You didn't know those professors were brainwashing them? You didn't know that they were putting this social justice nonsense in their heads? Should have known. He said they're a generation that does not know the depths of their own wickedness. Proverbs 30 verse 20 says, such is the way of an adulterous woman. She eateth and wipeth her mouth and saith, I have done no wickedness. That's what this generation is like. They can commit an offense toward God. It's like, that's how they are. Not only that, it's a generation that's full of pride. Proverbs 30 verse 13 says, there's a generation, oh how lofty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up. That haughtiness, that, I think of Thornburg or Thunberg or whatever her stupid name is. You talk about somebody just, and you can tell she's just a money-grubbing little girl now. Well, she's an adult now. But that arrogant look, that haughtiness, nothing but a stupid little girl. She don't know nothing. But her full of pride, lofty. Proverbs 30:13, Job 41:34, he beholdeth all things, he is king over the children of pride. When you raise, and pride or haughtiness, pride go up before destruction. A haughty spirit before a fall. Haughtiness is that, that proud look. That's the haughtiness. The pride is in the heart. You can be, funny thing about pride can hide behind, what's the word I'm looking for? Huh? No, pride can hide behind, not humbleness, I don't know what to say that, but, humility. Some people are proud of how humble they are. You got to be careful of pride. Pride can get you. And we have a whole generation. It says their king is Leviathan. Well, guess who's showing up? Their king. He goes, I got to show up while my subjects are here. Because he's king over all the children of pride. And there's a generation, oh, how lofty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up. See, that's what happens when we drop a generation. It only takes one. Communist Party knew that, and that's what they said. They would destroy America. And I don't think they've actually done it in one generation. It may have taken 1.5. I mean, we're only talking since 1945 or 1950. And they just start just picking away, just chunking away at it. The ideology, the morality, they use pornography, they use everything at their hand just to degrade the society. And then you degrade the youth when you get a hold of them. And by the way, you get to pay for that, by the way. When they send them to college, you get to pay big money for them to sabotage your kid. Now, if you're sending him away, so, well, I'm sending him away to be a mechanical engineer. Yeah, but he's got to take those electives. It's those electives where they're brainwashing him. Not these engineering class where he's got to learn mathematics. Anyway, not only is it a generation full of pride, but it's a generation that is extremely violent. This is probably the thing that kind of concerns most of you, is you don't know when you're going to be attacked by some crazy, misguided kid or some nut job that has listened to this nonsense and all of a sudden thinks that you're the target. Proverbs 30, verse 14. There's a generation whose teeth are as swords. Not only will we call it gnashing their teeth, they're going to say everything they can about you as wickedly as they can. Their teeth are as swords and their jaw teeth as knives. They're going to cut on you with the words. To devour the poor from off the earth and the needy from among men. So a bloodthirsty generation arises, literally. You know what 2 Timothy 3, verse 1 to 3 talks about in the latter days, and it gives you a list of what's going to arise out of that? And one of the words is fierce. Have you ever noticed how fierce this generation's getting? They don't even fear the law. Well, that's right, we gave up the law. We don't have law anymore. You're allowed to go in and steal $800-900 worth of stuff, walk right out, nobody will stop you. Not if you're black, but if you're white, look out. You might get shot. But I mean, that's what we've done. We've done that to ourselves in allowing that. And they're getting fierce. They'll confront you. It used to be people were in fear of the law. They would be in fear of the law of attacking you in public. They'd fear the law. There's no fear of the law now. They wouldn't even have to set bail. So when you see somebody that is one of that kind, you can tell they act. Be careful, because they can't attack you and get away with it. We're talking about a generation that did away with corporal punishment because violence begets violence. I wonder why they're so violent then. They should be powder puffs, man. But they're not. And this has produced the most violent generation of children in our nation's history. I've got this thing that looks out all over the country. And it looks at whoever's on ham radio and who is listening in on stations. And I've got it set to where it's got to be like 1,500 to 2,000 people. Because I don't want to hear every little, I don't want to know about every little thing. I just want to know if there's 2,000 or 3,000 people listening for an event that's taking place. And for the longest time I had it, and it every now and then it would show, this place. Every morning, it shows me a location that says shooting in progress. Officer-involved shooting, a manhunt. Don't go to Indiana. I mean, Indiana, about every day, man, I'm getting something from Indiana. That place must be a wreck, or at least Indianapolis must be. I don't know, I'd stay out of that place, man, because I'm nearly every day something out of there. But it's all over the country, I'm hearing this. Mass shooting in progress. Now, it'd give me tornadoes too, Tornado here. Over the last week or so, I probably had about 20 locations. And all these hams, they just start talking back and forth, and somehow they're connected into this program, and it lets me know. But the shootings and the violence, it's increasing. So when Christians don't do their job, a Christian generation arises. And here's what's happened, that generation's ashamed of Jesus Christ. Mark 8:38 says, "Whosoever therefore shall be ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him also shall the Son of Man be ashamed when he cometh in the glory of his Father with the holy angels." Now look at it this way. You're not going to lose your salvation. Doesn't mean that Jesus Christ has to be proud of you. I don't use that word. Has to be pleased with you. There's verses in there that talk about not being accepted. Now, you're accepted in the beloved. Not talking about salvation, but being in his presence and him not accepting you. I can't think of anything worse than that. I can't. Not being accepted in his, no, wait till after the judgment and then I'll let you in my presence. Wouldn't that be something? No. Don't want to talk to you right now. Oh, you don't think that could happen, right? You think God's some kind of marshmallow up there, just that he doesn't know what you did. He doesn't care what you did. Oh, he cares. He's going to have something to say to you about it. And he's going to have something to say to me about it. And that ought to be terrifying. And it is terrifying. But there's the indication that he'll just say, talk to the hand. And you got to get some things straightened out. Now, that doesn't mean he doesn't love you, but did your mom and dad always just want to cuddle and hold you and, you and I need to talk. Get things straightened out. That's what's going to happen. But ultimately, when Christians don't do their job, a generation arises that will receive no mercy when judgment comes. That's the generation we just set up. They're here. They're fierce. They're carnal. They're wicked. They're out there. And we just set them up. You know what God's going to do? He's going to come back and he's going to kill them without mercy. He's going to kill them without mercy. He said there in Revelation 14, verse 9 to 11, "And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture." There's no mercy in it. "Into the cup of his indignation he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, in the presence of the Lamb, and the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever. They have no rest day nor night who worship the beast in his image, whosoever receiveth the mark of his name." You're looking at that generation. They all love a tattoo. They all love a tattoo. Grandma's getting tattoo on her ankle, on her wrist. Why? We love tattoo. Oh, put it right there. Put it right there. Put it right there. Put it right there. They're ready. I don't know how much ready they could be. Their ideology, their religion, they're going to be perfect. But it was Hannah that produced a Samuel in the midst of an evil generation. You don't have to produce worldly kids. You don't have to. You can do everything possible to make that not happen. In fact, you even got a promise that God will, when they get old, they'll not depart from it. Either they won't depart from it at all to begin with, or if they do depart from it, God will bring them back. He says, when he says your labor is not in vain in the Lord, when you labor over your children, and I mean, it's not just to say, look, son, you need to do right. You need to do right. It's not that really. So look, son, you need to know God. You need to know God. I can't know him for you. And get him to know God. Not just church. Know God. Not just preachers and so-and-so, evangelists, so-and-so. They all know them. But to know God. That's That's the change. That's what makes the change. That's what makes them turn and pivot and do something different in their life. Strange thing about it is, God will take somebody that could make a fortune. They got a mind, man, and God will turn that guy to do something for him, and the parents will go, no! Stop! Don't do that! You're so gifted. Yeah, but God wants me to do this. No, you sure about that? You can make so much money. Have a great career. I mean, parents actually sabotage the kid doing the will of God. And for the love of peace, man, don't send them to college. I don't know if you can afford that. You lose all your money, but you lose your kid. Acts 2:40 said, in many other words did he testify and exhort, saying, save yourselves from this untoward generation. That's pretty much what you have to do. If you're a parent and you're raising children, save yourself from this perverse generation, this untoward generation. Pull away. Get away from them. They will destroy your child. There's at one point where you could actually put a kid, and I'm not saying there's not some places around the United States where this can't happen. There are some places you could put them in a local school and you'd be no worse for wear. I mean, it wouldn't be the best, but they're pretty much just teaching them reading, writing, arithmetic. And the more conservative areas, they have a way of just filtering out the garbage. You get in the main cities, man, they're feeding your kid garbage upon garbage. But it's getting to the point where there's very few places you can go where you think, if I put my kid in there, what am I going to get back? In the day, a Christian family could still send their kid to a public school and the kid turn out okay, because he had a strong belief in God, a strong belief in the Bible, and he took it to school with him. Now, hawk your home if you have to, but don't put them in the public schools. Don't put them in the colleges if you can help it. Do anything you can to avoid that kind of thing, because they'll ruin them. They will ruin them. So, generation rising. Well, it's not even rising, it's here. We're seeing this generation that Proverbs talks about. It has arisen in full bloom. And we're living amongst them, hopefully only for a short time, because the end of this thing is going to be extremely bad. They are a generation that hate Jesus Christ, and they're going to be a generation that's going to accept the Antichrist, I mean, unequivocally. They will flock to him because he's going to be what they're looking for. So, told you it wasn't going to be positive. Thank God for our ladies in the sense that, well, most of you raised your kids in church. Most of you took a stand for the right Bible. And this is what you do. You do what you can, the best you can. And then you just have to commit the thing to God. But you never stop praying for them. Never. And if they're still in church, they still believe the Bible, well, you can consider yourself a success, because most of them don't. What's surprising is that the ones that we all went to church with have raised some atheists. How does that happen? How does that happen? I mean, how do you go from, I was raised in church and I'm now an atheist? I don't understand that, but it happens. And I'm not saying it's necessarily the parents' fault. I'm not going to say that. But it does say, train up a child in the ways he should go. So stay at it. Understand that the payout is not till years later. When they, see, and this is true with any child, they're brainless until they reach a certain age. I don't mean that in the wrong way. I mean that in the right way. Is that they have no life experience. They have no troubles that they've gone through. They've experienced no pain. Therefore, they do not know. But when they begin to go through those things, just like these college kids right now, when they get a job and they look at their paycheck and the government took half of it, then they're going to say, hey, where's all this money going? Oh, it's going for those lowlifes out there that I supported that won't get a job and that we get to take care of. You know what they say, the ones that went to Woodstock are your most conservative people on the planet now. Because as you live and watch and see and experience, you get more conservative. But when you're young and you really don't know what life's all about, they feed you full of all this liberal stuff. That's the way it works. Raise them on the Bible, they'll neither be conservative nor liberal. They'll be biblical. They will have a worldview like they should have from God's point of view. Because the rest of it doesn't matter. Now granted, that will cause them to be different in how they view this nation. Getting saved and believing the Bible has changed my view of everything. I am an American. I believe in fighting for America. I may have to. But I also realize that this is a nation that's going down. Why? Because God says it is. And all the, wishing and hoping and I think things will turn out okay. Not according, this is my worldview of the thing. Or this is my view of the thing from the biblical view, not the world view. Anyway. Stay at it. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon. Raising children is a marathon. One spanking doesn't make a kid right. A couple thousand of them maybe in the first year or two. A couple thousand spankings, that have some, and you say, well, does it matter how you do it? Yeah, it does. Everything matters. You can do things with the wrong intent. You can do things with, Bible talks about people disciplining their children because it pleased them. Dad take the belt on you because he got a lot of satisfaction beating the snot out of you. That's probably true. It still probably won't hurt you. Still probably help you. It might be just a little bit too violent, but it might still help you. And I'm not talking about hurting anybody. And there's a reason why God set it up the way He did. You see, you can beat them. That's the word. You can beat them now, or somebody else will beat them later physically. Probably in the face. You can discipline them now, or they'll be disciplined later. Take your pick. This thing about, well, I just don't believe in corporal punishment. Well, you believe in capital punishment? Because that's what you're taking them to. You say, I don't believe in this corporal punishment, but then they're on death row. Kids. Glad both mine are saved. That's what I work toward first. Get your children saved. Work on that. If they hit those teenage years and they're not already saved, work hard. Because once they hit adulthood and they get out on their own, it's even harder. Especially when things are going relatively well. Win your children when they're young. Win them in a Sunday school. Win them in a church service. Win them at home because you're doing Bible verses. You're doing family altar. All those things matter. They all matter. Everything matters. And anything about God is good. Anything about this book is good for them. You make it second nature to them, they'll grow up believing every word in here like they should. And they won't be that generation that doesn't know the Lord. They'll know the Lord. All right, let's all stand. I'm done. We do have something for you, being Mother's Day. Oh, what happened to her? Anyway, she'll get it to you somewhere. She's back there somewhere.